Hey guys, what's up? How's it going? So the Insta360 One X2 has been released. Now we can all talk about it and use it, and I can show you what it can do. But in this video, we're going to be focusing solely on a comparison between the One X2, the One R, and the original One X. So I'm going to show you videos and photos shot with all three of these cameras in the same place at the same time, so we can really see what the difference is between them all. Now, just looking at the specifications, I know some people were kind of disappointed that the One X2 can still only shoot 5.7K 360 video at 30 frames per second. That is exactly the same as the original One X and indeed the One R. But as you're about to see, just because the resolution hasn't changed doesn't mean the video quality and photo quality isn't better, because it certainly is. We're also going to talk about all of the other differences between the cameras, so design, what they're really built to do, what other features they have. So if you're confused about which one of these cameras you should get, then by the end of this video, hopefully it will be a lot clearer. But the first thing we're going to look at is some direct video and photo comparisons, because I think that is what most people want to see straight away. So let's take a look at these video comparisons that I shot side by side. As you can see here, they are all labeled pretty clearly, so you know which footage is from which camera. Looking at direct comparisons between all three of these cameras, you will see that the One X2 does shoot considerably sharper video than especially the One X, but even the One R, with better dynamic range, a little bit more colorful. The One X2 also benefits from a slightly higher bit rate than the One X. Looking at some more three-way side-by-side images, I do think out of the three, the One X2 does tend to look the best, particularly compared to the One X. I think there is a big noticeable improvement there. Compared to the One R, the differences are less noticeable, probably because both of these cameras were developed roughly the same time, whereas the One X was developed a couple of years ago. If we focus on just a comparison between the One X2 and the One X, I think we can really confirm here the noticeable upgrade in video quality. The One X footage looks a bit desaturated, the details are a bit blurred, it kind of looks like there's this grey tinge over the whole video, whereas in the One X2 everything is a lot sharper, the colours are more saturated. So when it comes to video quality, a comparison between the One X2 and the One X, the One X2 is definitely the winner. So while you don't get upgraded resolution, and while it isn't astronomically better, it is noticeable. So if you are looking for an upgrade for this camera, for the original One X, then the One X2 is going to be noticeably better. Now, if we just focus on a video comparison between the One X2 and the One R, these two cameras are more similar in terms of the quality that they can produce. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, these are designed for different purposes, but they probably share similar optics. They were probably developed roughly the same time. They are both still flagship cameras from Insta360. They are both going to be on sale and supported for a long time. So the difference isn't as noticeable. Perhaps slightly different color technology or color processing used in the One X2. Everything seems a little bit more saturated. The difference between light and dark is a little bit more noticeable. Bear in mind that I didn't do any color correcting or editing for either of these videos. I shot in exactly the same format, so it should be as identical as I could get it. One thing I did notice is this red dot that you get with Insta360 cameras and most other 360 cameras. It is something to do with the light hitting the back of the lens. It happens when you are shooting in direct sunlight. In the One R, it is a very noticeable kind of blob, which isn't particularly attractive. You can't really hide it. Whereas in the One X2, it comes across more like a lens flare. While that is not ideal, I think it kind of blends in with sunny, bright scenery better than that weird blob you get in the One R. When it comes to moving video, they all perform really well. If we look at some moving video between the One X2, One X and One R, we can see they all work really well. I do think it's been upgraded in the past 2 years since the One X came out, and the One X2 benefits from slightly better stabilization. There is not as much vibrations when your foot hits the floor. If you're walking in lower light situations, the stabilization works better. Even though my tests here aren't particularly extreme, I'm mostly just walking with them or running, you can still see how they work. I mean, if we turn the stabilization off, it would be completely unwatchable. So these are still very well stabilized and they all work pretty much exactly the same way. So overall, when it comes to shooting 360 video, the One X2 is definitely the better out of the three. Compared to the original One X, I think the difference is quite significant just in terms of quality. Compared to the Insta360 One R, the difference is less noticeable. They shoot almost the same video most of the time. But let's talk about photography photography, 360 photos, whether you want to use that for virtual tours, whether you want to use it for Instagram, Facebook, or Google Street View. There are many uses of 360 photography in 2020. So which one is the best? I would say the difference here is actually more significant than the video comparison. If we look at some photos shot with all three of these cameras, I think the Insta360 One X2 is the better option pretty much every single time. Now, the reason for this is that the One X2 features a mode called Pure Shot. Now, I think this works by basically combining multiple exposures, kind of like a HDR photo, but you don't need to do any post-processing. You don't need to do any manual edits. It will just automatically create this much enhanced image when you transfer it to your phone. So I think you'll agree with basically every photo that I took with all three of these cameras, that One X2 smashed it out the park compared to the others. So if you specifically wanted to get one of these cameras for shooting virtual tours, then definitely the One X2 is the one to get. It's going to be able to shoot much higher quality photos in an indoor environment. It's going to reduce overexposure. It's going to make everything look a lot better. It's going to make everything look more professional. One of the hardware upgrades provided to the Insta360 One X2 is more microphones. The One X2 features 4 microphones, whereas both the One X and the One R just have 2. So the audio should be a lot better. Now I'm going to show you an audio sample from the One X and the One R. I'm going to show you an audio sample from the One X2 and the One R so we can listen to the difference. However, bear in mind, guys, that when I tested the One R, I was using a beta version of the firmware and the audio wasn't quite ready. They have literally on the release day updated the audio quality to be better. This audio is not how it's going to sound when you use it, but you can still hear the difference between those 2 versus 4 microphones. Hey guys, what's up? I'm testing the new Insta360 One X2, the next generation 360 camera from Insta360. Now this is a bit of a test between the One X2 and the One R to see which one can shoot better video, which one looks better, and also a bit of a test of the sound of the microphones. So enjoy this video and let me know what you think. It's going to be plenty of more footage coming up, so yeah, stick around. So what are the main differences between these 3 cameras? Let's just do a quick fire round where we list off the main differences, mostly in terms of hardware and specifications. Let's start with the One X2 versus the One X. The One X2 has an aperture of f2.0, whereas the One X has an aperture of f2.8. The resolution and frame rate options of both of these cameras is exactly the same. However, the Insta360 One X2 can shoot in H.265 format, whereas the Insta360 One X can just shoot H.264. H.265 will allow for slightly higher quality video in a smaller file size. The original One X can just shoot 360 video. However, the One X2 has a mode called Steadicam, which allows you to use just one of its 2 lenses to shoot normal non-360 video while still applying excellent stabilization. The One X2 is completely waterproof without any case up to 10 meters, whereas the original One X requires a dive case to take it underwater. Both cameras feature a removable battery. However, the One X is limited to around about 50 minutes of video on a single charge, whereas the One X2 can last around about 80 minutes on a single charge. Now let's talk about the One X versus the One R. The One X2 is a dedicated 360 camera. While it can also shoot that Steadicam mode, it is primarily a 360 camera. That is what it's designed to be. On the other hand, the Insta360 One R is a completely different design. It is modular. You can take it apart. You can put different lenses in. While it can shoot 360 video with its 360 mod, it is designed more to be an all-round camera for any kind of occasion, where you can just quickly switch out the lenses depending on what you want to use it for. While this makes the One R more versatile, it does mean it's not particularly well designed as a 360 camera. It is much wider than the One X2, so the stitching line between both lenses is more visible. It also requires a case for you to attach any accessory. Sometimes it can be annoying to have to take it apart and keep putting it back together and to not break this case. It's also only waterproof to 5 meters, whereas the One X2 is waterproof to 10. I think the main confusion and where people may struggle is which one of these to get, the One X2 or the One R. They are both going to be sold side by side. They are both going to be supported for a long time. So it is not a case of one replacing the other. The One R is supposed to be more of an all-round camera for people who aren't necessarily going to be shooting in 360 all the time. You want the option to shoot normal flat video, high quality video with its 1-inch module, which works really well in low light. Whereas the One X2 is designed solely as a 360 camera. It is more well designed for this purpose. It is primarily a 360 camera first and foremost. So if you are mostly interested in shooting in that format, then this is probably more what you're going to be interested in. Let's take a closer look at the design of all three of these cameras, which one is built the best, which one has high quality materials. Let's start with the One X2 versus the One X, and it is immediately obvious that the One X2 has really upped the game in terms of build quality. It is much more sturdy. They have improved the design to an extreme degree, to be honest. The original One X was quite flimsy. It seemed quite cheap. The materials weren't great. It was very easy to break. But on the flip side, the One X2 is made of much more rugged materials. The plastic used seems much higher quality. There is a rubber outer edge which makes it much easier to grip, means you're not likely to drop it. It features these doors which allow you to lock everything into place, making it fully waterproof. Everything about it just feels and looks like a more premium product. It features that circular LCD touch screen, which makes it way easier to use. It's very responsive, allows you to have access to all of the features, to change everything without having to connect to a phone app, which can sometimes be unreliable. Compared to the One R, we can obviously see the massive difference in design. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, the two cameras are designed for different purposes. The One R is a more jack of all trades. It is designed to be able to be any kind of camera you want it to be, whereas the One X2 is specifically designed to be a 360 camera. I find the One R to be a bit clunky, to be a bit too large, even though you get that advantage of having all those different lenses, which for the most part is worth it. I wouldn't say it is as user-friendly, and I do think some of the design features are not ideal, especially the locking mechanisms which lock the battery and the USB port into place. So overall, I think the One X2 is the best built out of all three of these cameras, especially compared to the original One X. I guess the final thing to consider is the software available for these cameras. All of them use the same app, the Insta360 app, which allows you to do all that awesome video editing, to create all those cool effects that we have seen. It allows you to track objects in your video, allows you to reframe them, to make these clones, to do all these other cool effects available in what they call the Shot Lab. While all three of these cameras can use that app, they don't all have access to the same features. Particularly the One X doesn't have access to some of those Shot Lab features. So guys, I guess that's it. That is my comparison between all three of these cameras. The original One X was my favorite 360 camera for a long time after it came out. I thought it was but it is getting out of date now. Insta360 actually doesn't sell this camera anymore. If you want to buy the original One X, you have to get it secondhand off eBay or somewhere. The One X2 is maintained that design, which I really love, but improved upon it, made it much more durable, made it even more easier to use with the touchscreen and the rubber edge. Definitely between these two, the old One X, sorry, but I'm over it. It's done. It was great for the time, but the video quality just isn't matching up. It gets a bit more complicated when we talk about these two, the One R and the One X2, because, well, they are really meant for different purposes. I like using the One R because of those other modules, particularly the 1-inch module, which works really well as a kind of mid-range, high-quality camera. As a 360 camera, it's not as good because it is just too large, it's too clunky, and I appreciate the ingenuity and the flexibility you have with this camera. Overall, if I had to pick one up and start using it, it's gonna be the One X2, because most of the time I am gonna be shooting in 360, hence the name of this channel. So yeah, for me, I prefer the One X2, but you may disagree. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna be posting more videos in the next few days about the One X2, some compilation shots of all the things I've shot in the past few weeks, obviously doing some more videos with it, some tips and tricks, etc. in the coming weeks, so subscribe if you're into that. I hope you found this video useful. That is it, guys. I will see you next time. See you around. Bye.